use of media for financial literacy and rural outreach, financial literacy for the youth, and financial literacy in workplaces, clubs, and associations. The launch of the strategy on financial literacy for Uganda, therefore, represents an important milestone for Bank of Uganda's efforts to work with a large number of stakeholders to increase financial inclusion and strengthen financial literacy in the country. Strengthening financial literacy is a very vital aspect of financial inclusion. Everyone needs to be financially literate so as to manage their personal and household finances better, and this applies to both the wealthy and the poor. Managing financial literacy helps to improve personal finances, and managing personal finances effectively has to be one and an essential life skill in the modern world. The implementation of the strategy for financial literacy in Uganda will help to ensure that there is a more comprehensive and sustainable approach with an effective range of challenges, programs for financial literacy in Uganda. The recent macroeconomic challenges during 2011-2012 echoed the need to enhance the financial literacy needs of the population across the country, to sensitize the public on monetary policy choices, the associated short-term outcomes, and the expected longer-term benefits. There have been 2 speeches already, and I don't think I should speak too long, lest I steal the minister's attention away from the minister's statement. Let me say that the Bank of Uganda has from the onset been supported by the German Development Corporation through GTZ, and I'm delighted that the acting ambassador has been able to make it. Your Excellency, you're welcome to this function. I thank the German government and all our colleagues from GIZ for the very encouraging and unwavering support in developing the strategy for financial literacy in Uganda. Thank you very much. With these few remarks, may I ask His Excellency German Ambassador to make some remarks. Okay.
Honorable Maria Chibanuka, Minister of Planning, Finance and Economic Development, Professor Emmanuel Tumusime Mutebile, Governor of the Bank of Uganda, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to have the opportunity to address this afternoon's meeting marking the launch of a strategy for financial literacy in Uganda and I'm very proud to say that Uganda and Germany have a very long and fruitful cooperation in the field of economic and social development. Our cooperation, in fact, dates back to the year 1964, when an agreement on technical cooperation was signed between our two countries, and this cooperation has expanded more and more over the past almost 50 years. In 2007, the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development declared Uganda a priority country. Our two governments identified the following sectors as priorities of our joint German-Ugandan cooperation: the financial sector, the energy sector, and the water sector. An efficient financial sector with services accessible and affordable to everyone is a basic precondition for strong private sector development and a balanced, sound economic growth. Through its Technical Cooperation Agency, GIZ, and its development bank, KfW, Germany supports Uganda's efforts to develop the financial sector. Our cooperation is manifold and addresses a number of very important areas. We support the Bank of Uganda in its efforts to regulate the financial sector. At the same time, we provide refinancing for financial institutions. In April this year, we launched the Challenge Fund, a new instrument to promote access to finance for Uganda's rural population. We cooperate with universities supporting microfinance studies. And also German experts are posted in rural areas to advise savings and credit cooperatives to enhance their services in a sustainable way. Uganda's financial sector has achieved a lot in recent years. It is encouraging to see an increase in savings accounts and in access to mobile banking services. Progress has also been made in developing the regulatory framework for the financial services sector. Still, only about 20% of Ugandans above the age of 18 have a bank account with a regulated financial institution. Much more progress needs to be made over the coming years so that many more people, especially in the rural areas, have access to and can make effective use of safe and affordable financial services. Financial literacy, consumer awareness, and consumer protection are necessary to allow all parts of the population to participate in a modern economy and to realize their social and economic rights. I'm very grateful to the Governor of the Bank of Uganda for his kind comments about the contribution which GIZ has made to work to broaden and deepen financial inclusion, and in particular the help which GIZ has provided during the development of the strategy for financial literacy in Uganda. The strategy, which is being launched today by the Honourable Minister, was developed by Ugandans for Uganda, but it also draws upon the experience from a wide range of countries. This has allowed Uganda to avoid some mistakes and to move forward more quickly. Among the lessons that can be learned from other countries are the following. The development of a strategy for financial literacy helps to ensure that there exists a well-coordinated approach, avoiding unintended gaps as well as unnecessary and costly overlaps. Development and implementation of such a strategy requires effective leadership, and therefore it is very welcome that the Bank of Uganda has taken the lead in the work to develop the strategy for financial literacy in Uganda, and that it is further committed to lead its implementation. Working in partnership does help to maximize the impact of different organizations' strengths and experiences, and it is important to identify initiatives which are cost-effective and sustainable. People can be put off by too much information or by a large number of options. Messages need to be kept short, simple, straightforward, and engaging. And finally, although you can take advantage of lessons learned elsewhere, each country is different. I applaud the fact that this strategy puts forward Ugandan solution to Ugandan challenges. I know that these lessons have been taken fully into account in developing the strategy which is launched today, and this will maximize the chances that the strategy will prove to be genuinely effective by making a real difference to people's lives. A number of development partners have been involved in the preparation of the strategy. I wish to thank them very much for their contribution and encourage them to continue. If there are any development partners which have not yet been involved, I would strongly encourage them to participate. As has been said before, people need a satisfactory measure of financial literacy in order to be able to participate in a fully modern economy. Contributing to financial literacy initiatives represent excellent use of development partners' money. Operating under the umbrella of this strategy will help them all to maximize the benefits which are generated by funds provided for financial literacy initiatives. I am delighted to have been invited to participate in the launch of this very important strategy. And as the governor has said, the most exciting part begins now, the implementation of the activities described in the strategy. I can assure you that Germany will continue to support the implementation of the strategy. I wish all of you who will be involved in the future in this important endeavor every success, and I look forward to the results of your work, which will be making a real difference to the lives of your fellow citizens. Thank you very much.
Guest of honor, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the governor, I wish to invite the guest of honor, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Mrs. Maria Chiwanuka, to come and do two things. One, deliver her speech, and thereafter launch the financial literacy project today. Honorable Maria Chiwanuka, Madam.
Professor Tumusime Mutebile, Governor of the Bank of Uganda, Your Excellency Joachim Dister, Acting Ambassador of Germany, Chief Executive Officers of various institutions, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure I welcome you all to this important function that marks a major milestone towards strengthening the role of the financial sector in economic development. I am particularly happy because my mandate is twofold. As Minister of Finance, I must encourage the velocity of money within the country and to make sure that the systems get more sophisticated and embracing. But as Minister of Planning and Economic Development, I must ensure that there's adequate financing to fund economically viable and sustainable growth, which equals development. Without adequate knowledge about financial services and the role of finance in development and how to qualify for financial assistance, it is difficult to realize sustainable and inclusive growth. Therefore, the launch of this strategy for financial literacy in Uganda is a very good way of increasing effectiveness of finance and financial leverage by more informed and empowered citizens. I thank the Governor, the Bank of Uganda staff, and the government of the Federal Republic of Germany for the technical and financial support provided to make this strategy a reality. The Governor is very kind when he said I gave guidance. I think it mostly consisted of one sentence: are we there yet? Are we there yet? Hurry up, hurry up. So thank you, Governor. The development and implementation of financial literacy, public awareness, and consumer protection policies are all very important elements of a vibrant and effective financial system. This strategy, therefore, complements earlier initiatives towards financial widening and deepening. It empowers the public with knowledge to benefit more from the various financial services and with greater protection. A good financial system is not a standalone, but rather it's part of the foundation for broad-based, inclusive economic growth and development. The persistence of poverty where it occurs is not only due to lack of resources, but also to the suboptimal use of those resources. This year, our maxim in government is not so much the value of the money available, but value for money available. And this strategy is right up our street. Financial literacy offers benefits to both public and financial institutions to increase both their savings and the pace of their economic activities. Therefore, I urge us all to support financial literacy initiatives and to sensitize each other about the benefits of saving and borrowing for personal and business development. You will all agree with me that it's far better for financial institutions to have well-focused, well-informed consumer market than a financial market of consumers who are ignorant, suspicious, or disengaged. I'm happy to mention at this point that in the next 2 weeks, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development is going to host an expo for local investors to show them the breadth and range of government services available for local investors. And the Financial Literacy Information Group will have a very prominent booth at this expo. The increasing diversification of financial products and services available in Uganda, including those which are delivered via new technologies, gives us both new opportunities but also new challenges. Improving financial literacy will help us all to take advantages of opportunities presented by new technologies without overexposing ourselves to unnecessary risk. Financial literacy should not be perceived as a mere course in business skills training or credit promotion activity. The financial literacy program should be dynamic and relevant to its consumers, implying that the content of the program is as important as a trust strategy of delivering the program. It is important to note that even the financial institutions themselves need to learn more about design, content, and delivery mechanisms for various unique financial products that are suitable for different people, especially in the rural areas. Therefore, financial literacy and inclusion should not only be driven by what products are available, but what is demanded by the market. Given that the financial sector is fully liberalized, financial education should be supplemented with financial consumer protection awareness to promote fair and equitable financial services and to increase transparency in the provision of these services. Consumers with good knowledge about financial products, mechanisms, and individual roles and responsibilities will make better decisions regarding engagement with financial agencies and institutions. For instance, an informed consumer will know that their proposed project or activity is the actual applicant for a loan and not they themselves. That is what we'd call true access to money, not the often complaint we hear, I can't access the money. The coverage of consumer protection should be across all financial institutions. It's important for all financial service providers to disclose all relevant information clearly and on a timely basis. This is true even of the microfinance institutions, those governed by Tier 4. And I'm glad that the Bank of Uganda Supervision Department has taken steps to ensure that each bank clearly displays all their lending guidelines in prominent places in all their banking halls across the country. And I'm glad to note that they're also going to make sure that these guidelines are also repeated in the major local languages of whatever district they're in. Another way for new consumers to gain confidence in the financial system is through strengthening of the consumer protection. While the requirements for prudential regulation may vary across different complexity of institutions, consumer protection issues should not be and will not be negotiable. To encourage new entrants, the appreciation of financial literacy must start early. I'm glad to hear that the Bank of Uganda has already engaged the Ministry of Education and Sports and the National Curriculum Development Center to include financial literacy into the training program for primary and lower secondary, as well as upper secondary. I'm also encouraged to see so many different stakeholders here today. I'm confident that the team effort exemplified by your presence and the leadership of the central bank will support the full realizations of our aspirations in this literacy strategy. As indicated by the governor, the financial literacy agenda presents a number of challenges, but they're not impossible to overcome, given the team spirit portrayed at this function today. The government is committed to play its own role in the development of the financial sector. I'm glad to inform you that my ministry has already received cabinet approvals to table various financial amendments in Parliament to change the Financial Institutions Law Act. These changes and new laws and regulations will include banking according to Islamic principles, whereby the banking institution does not charge interest but takes an equity stake in the enterprise. Where a woman wanting to purchase a small farming implement can go to the bank, take them to the shop and say, that's the one I want, and to borrow exactly enough money for that. Other products which are going to be before Parliament very shortly is to amend the Financial Institutions Act to include bank assurance, where banks can insure their borrowing. Mobile money banking regulations, so that we can make sure that the fast-growing mobile money transfer market is well regulated and the consumers well protected. We're also going to introduce agency banking, which will improve the number of banking outlets, the non-physical banking outlets available, especially in the rural areas. Once again, I thank the Bank of Uganda, GIZ, and other development partners who have contributed to this strategy and helped us formulate the new amendments which have now taken to Parliament. Special thanks go to the acting German ambassador to Uganda, His Excellency Joachim Döster, for his personal commitment. Our continued joint support will be critical to the success of this strategy. With these not so few remarks, I'm delighted to declare that the strategy for financial literacy in Uganda is hereby launched. I'm sure the new technology, beated, was very much more sophisticated than just cutting a ribbon, right?
We thank the Honourable Minister for her remarks, very inspiring, and at Bank of Uganda, we couldn't have hoped for anything better than the Honourable Minister herself launching the strategy for financial literacy in Uganda. We thank you very much, Madam. What we are going to do next, as you will see on your program, is an awards giving ceremony. As you've heard throughout the speeches, and for those who've been involved in this process from the beginning, there have been a lot of stakeholders devoting their time, energy on a voluntary basis to help develop this strategy. And this is something that the Bank of Uganda is very grateful for. And what I'm going to do right now is to read out. You'll appreciate that we are quite many. And in the interest of time, it may not be possible for the minister to hand out a certificate to each and every person. But let me start by reading out for acknowledgement the members of the Financial Literacy Advisory Group and the different working groups. I am going to read your names, and at this stage I would request you to kindly just stand up and be recognized. Starting with the Financial Literacy Advisory Group, we've already learned that the chairman is Mr. Emmanuel Chikoni, Executive Secretary of the Uganda Bankers Association. Mr. Fajil Mande, Chairman of the Uganda National Examinations Board. Mr. Frank Chigundu from the Interreligious Council of Uganda. Mr. Henry Richard Chimera from Consent, which is Consumer Empowerment Trust. Mr. Latima Mukasa from Rock Insurance Services. Mr. Moses Kagwa is the Commissioner of Tax Policy in the Ministry of Finance. Madam Susanna Jok from the Straight Talk Foundation. I'll also read the names of members of the Financial Literacy Advisory Group who have not been able to make it, and that's Mr. Aloysius Semanda from Multitech Business School, Mr. Onapito Ekomoloit from Nile Breweries, Mr. Patrick Bitature, we all know him for Simba Telecom and many other things, and Madame Veronica Namagembe, she's the MD of Pride Microfinance. We also have Mr. Chris Musoke and Mr. Robbie Muhumuza. My apologies, Mr. Robbie Muhumuza should have been recognized earlier. I will now read the members of the different working groups before we actually go into the certificate award ceremony. Starting with the working group that was dealing with financial literacy in schools. Irene Mutumba was the chairperson of this working group, and she's from the Private Education Development Network. Mr. Edson Bagonza from the Great Lakes Rural Outreach Development. Mr. Mulumba Mutema Matthias from the National Curriculum Development Center. Madam Josephine Kaleba from Junior Achievement Uganda. Mr. David Ogaya from Ruganda Road Primary School. And I'll read those who have not been able to make it today. Mr. John Ekwamu from the Aga Khan Foundation. Ms. Juliet Masiga from the Interreligious Council of Uganda. Ms. Regina Mutono from Lubiri Senior Secondary School. We have Ms. Gertrude Nambiru from the National Curriculum Development Center. I'm sorry, ma'am, I hadn't realized that you came earlier. Mr. Nsumba Liazi Robinson, he's an Assistant Commissioner in the Ministry of Education. And Mr. Christian Ongechu from IDUC Group Limited. Financial Literacy Youth Working Group. Chairperson of the Youth Working Group is Ms. Annette Nakaunde Mulindwa, who's the Chairperson of Uganda Finance Trust. Mr. Olanya Olenge Jimmy from Jekon Consulting Group. Mr. Tugumuzirise Charles from Afro Educare. And I apologize if I murdered your name along the way. I'll also now read names of those who have not been able to make it. Mr. James Aniamzala Rampiji from the African Youth with Disabilities Network. We have Ms. Julie Baiga from the Population Council. We have Ms. Regina Kamhanda, who is a consultant. Mr. Martin Muhwezi from the Financial Literacy Week. I thought I had seen him earlier. Ms. Lillian Nanteza from the National Youth Empowerment Network. And I'll now go to the Rural Outreach Working Group. Our chairperson is not here today. He's Mr. Billy Butamanya from the Uganda Cooperative Alliance. But the other members present here are Ms. Grace Ineget Amuda from BRAC Uganda. Madam Zaina Basimwe from the Association of Microfinance Institutions of Uganda. Mr. Yorsam Bareche, Stanbic Bank. Ms. Lydia Karunji from Uganda Cooperative Savings and Credit Union. Mr. Ruben Mbauta, all the way from Fura Financial Services, Kasese. And I dare add, he never missed a working group meeting. For those who are not here, Alan Ayebare, Centenary Bank. Madam Margaret Namazi from Opportunity Bank. And Mr. Gilbert Onono Okello from Ministry of Finance. Pastor Samuel Chizito from the Interreligious Council of Uganda. Mr. Patrick Seboa from Plan Uganda. I thought I had seen you earlier. You're very welcome. Mr. Ivan Tumuhumbise from SNV, and Mr. David Tumwesije from Finca Uganda. Workplaces Working Group. We have Mrs. Anne Muhanji Chohire from Capital Markets Authority. We have Mr. Andrew Eboku Eyeru from Stanbic Investments. We have Ms. Joan Choktamba from Uganda Consumer Protection Association. We have Mr. Waswa Kajubi from Tirupati Development and Tulip Consultancy, and I think he will be recognized by Bank of Uganda staff here present. Let me also read those from the workplace group who sent their apologies. We have Mr. Peter Damzungu from the Private Sector Foundation, Uganda. Ms. Mbabazi Vana Mwinganisa from Equip Life Changing Skills. Mr. Nasa Munyagwa from the Federation of Uganda Employers. Dr. Peter Ngategize from the Ministry of Finance. I'm sorry, sir, if I hadn't recognized your presence earlier. Thank you. Mr. Henry Odongo from EcoBank, Uganda. Mr. Omar Kalinge Nyago from the Uganda Muslim Network. Lastly, the Media Working Group. The chairperson for that working group is Mr. Edmond Chizito. He's from Newsgate Biz, but if you listen to radio every evening, then I suspect I didn't have to introduce him. I think he's best known for Spectrum on Radio 1. Mr. Hans Chaze from UBC. As you tease